Hey everybody, this is the Ckemist coming to you for MixLife 7. Wow, 7 hours of good DIY content for you, and got a weird location for you, but it's better internet. So that's why we're doing it from here today, and we're really excited. We're going to be joined by MlNikon. You may know her. She's one of the powerhouse ladies of mixing. Say hello, Emily.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
I don't know about Powerhouse, but I appreciate the intro. How's everyone doing?
She's one of the oh, look. All right, there we go. We're live. Cool. All right. And it started coming through my phone like happens to Chris all the time. So let's start by talking for people maybe who don't know you. Just maybe tell a little bit about yourself, maybe what you do in your day life if you want, and then kind of how you transition from being a vapor, if you were, to being a DIY mixer.
Gosh, well, I've been mixing just since I guess it was June when I started, and I was vaping, and I was had just gotten into making my own coils and stuff like that, and I guess I was just thinking the next logical do-it-yourself kind of step is making your own juice, but I was really intimidated to get into it and scared. I didn't want to do it. And a friend of mine, my mixing partner, is he's like, yeah, I've been thinking about doing this. I'm like, oh, awesome, let's do it together. So it kind of took the fear away of having someone to do it with you, and got into it and just dove headfirst into it ever since. So.
And then when you were getting started, did you find that there were a lot of options for you as far as, was it easy for you to find the right stuff to mix with, or did you find kind of it was difficult and you had to dig for it kind of?
It was super easy. I had gotten into it at the kind of the golden age of when there was all this information had started coming out about it, DIY or die was on, and the Reddit was super booming time for that at that point. So that and of course my personality, if I'm curious about something, I will just research and just bang it to death and figure it out. And so it was pretty easy for me to get into it and figure out what to mix with and how to do it and stuff like that. So.
What were some of your first recipes that you mixed?
Well, it was probably a mistake, but one of the first ones I tried to do was the clone of one of the only juices I've ever had, and it was High Chew by the Gertz, and it was like a fruit yogurt and honey, and it was horrible. I didn't know, I still didn't know. I guess when I started out, I had this notion that which a lot of people would do is that your mixes have to be 15 or 20%. I didn't know what I was doing, and so I have I have 3 or 4 flavors, so let's just make them all 5% to get that, and it just, of course, it didn't work out, but then I've kind of figured by reading other people and what they were doing it's not. You got to figure out what the flavors, how they work, and what percentage to use them at for that particular flavor. So.
And then as you've been mixing, what sort of, like you just said that, that's one of the beginner mistakes is that you think flavors have to be these crazy percentages. And it's funny because a lot of the recipes on ELR that are top are kind of overly flavored. So you get led that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. ELR was the first database that I had, or mixing notebook kind of thing, that resource that I had learned about. And so even for recommended percentages for single flavors, they're crazy high. And so I've definitely found that the more I mix, the lower I'm mixing at, and finding that they taste just as powerful as higher tasted stuff. So.
Yeah, that's something that I think, I'm finding it's coming up with a lot of people where flavor doesn't equal percent. And then a lot of times people will interpret flavor mistakes as changing your percent when in actuality you haven't steeped it the right amount of time. So
Absolutely.
I know, steep time for me when I first started as a mixer, I was too impatient, so I didn't want to wait. And then as I would go back to older mixes that I'd over flavored or I hadn't allowed to steep, I would see flaws in the mix, and that really kind of taught me after the fact the importance of steeping, and then figuring out where it's best at.
Yeah, absolutely. It's as far as the flavor percentage goes, it's counterintuitive. You think, oh, you need more flavor, so you have to up the percentage of that flavor. When it's less is more, and it's a hard concept to grasp. And as far as steeping, I was impatient when I first started out. I never steeped anything, and then I had a juice probably 4 or 5 months ago. I had a juice that I didn't really like that well, and so I just kind of tucked it back behind in my steep drawer or whatever, and I tried it. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, what has happened? So it finally made me realize that steeping and letting everything kind of homogenize and melt together really does your flavors a justice. And you don't need to use, and in fact, I found out that the less flavor you use, the better it steeps out. And a lot of times if you use too much flavor, it just steeps into a muddled mess, and steeping doesn't help it at all. But if you use the right percentage of flavor for that flavor or that mix, steeping just does wonders, and it brings it out to its full potential.
Exactly. And I wanted you to know that Wayne is in the chat, and he said that you are an amazing mixer.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So that's
I'm not sure why I can't see the chat here. I've got the group chat. I hit the chat thing on Google Hangouts and can see the group chat.
No, it's in the YouTube chat. So
okay.
They're in there chatting up a storm.
Oh, gotcha. Well, hi everybody. Sorry, I can't see. I'll have to see what I can do to see that.
We got Darren Cole from UK.
Nice. What's up?
What up, Donald? What up, Josh? What up, Matt? What up, Ruby? What up, Michelle Hoffman? Nice. Hey, everybody. What up, the Dent Man? What up, Wayne? So, lots of cool people
nice.
are joining. And
awesome. Oh, here we go. I got it all. Hey, everybody. There we go.
Yeah, so they're all here, and it's nice to have everybody joining us. And then this also goes to Wayne's DIY or Die podcast, so you can get
nice.
on iTunes, Android, wherever you're looking. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I saw that you guys kind of meshed a little and doing a little collab where it's accessible via his network too, that's a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's, as we get to know each other more and more, and we work together, we all realize we're cool people and we all like each other, and the more we've done together, it's always gone well. So we hope to do more stuff ahead. Maybe tell me some of your mixes. Let's talk about some of your mixes that you're proudest of. Maybe even throw one out that you think doesn't get enough reach but is really good.
Oh gosh, okay. Well, I guess I'll start off with the first mix that I put that I kind of posted as I'm really proud of this, and it ends up what I ended up doing is what a lot of new mixers do is I just adapted someone else's recipe, and I had taken on live mixing. Wayne actually did his a blue raz kind of Jolly Rancher thing, and I just tweaked it and just killed it. It's worked so hard on it and did it, just banged my head against the wall and finally got it to where I think it was really awesome. So that was fun. Called Razzie Rancher on ATF. Pretty good. Gosh, and I have one I'm working on now. Haven't quite released it yet. It's not quite there. It's a pineapple and basil ice cream. That I had gotten Flavora basil and really thought, this is really good. I need to put this in something. And It's actually ID10T that said, hey, I was thinking about doing this, but if you want to do it first, go right ahead, So I kind of took the profile idea for him. Thanks, bud. And I'm working on that. I'm getting pretty close to publishing that. So it's getting there. It's not quite there. I'm thinking of adding a few final touches and tweaks, but it's getting there. But I don't know. I tend to, even though those are kind of fruity and candy things, I tend to like bakery vapes more. So I also have a bunch of bakery stuff. So I've got like a banana nut bread with chocolate chips in it. It's really good. That, I tend to do, but I try to please. Like I said, I have like a mixing partner, so he likes the fruity and candy stuff. I like the bakery stuff, so we kind of have a good mix of things.
So your mixing partner, you make specifically for his palate, and then he mixes for you. Is that
Well, we just get together and hang out, and we just kind of do things like for each other, like, and so he'll say, "Hey, how's this profile sound?" And we'll together kind of brainstorm, and well, this sounds good, and that sounds good. Let's throw this in and try it. So,
nice?
yeah.
And is he on the DIY? You can shout him out if you want to. Stay confidential.
No, it's his name's Scott. I think his I don't know if he's on the Discord yet. But yeah, his name's Scott on Facebook. So
Nice. Shout out to
Scott.
Scott.
Bud. Shout out to Scott. Way to go, bud.
So and then how long did you say you guys have been mixing together as a team?
Since last June, July.
Nice.
Area, so,
Nice.
Yeah.
So almost a year, yeah.
Almost a year, yeah. It's crazy.
That's great. All right, so maybe tell me some of your favorite flavors. You definitely got a nice supply behind you.
Yeah. I've been digging some Flavora flavors. Actually, I've been getting into that a little bit more. And actually saw a couple like off the wall like Saluba Rome flavors. So it's kind of tough because I want to keep it. You want to keep things accessible when you make a recipe because you want people to mix your stuff. At the same time, I'm like, it's really good, and if they have the stuff and mix it, they'll see it's awesome. So I don't want to like sacrifice flavor for something just because everybody has it. So I've been kind of branching off a little bit and getting into some of those stuff, and I don't know, I've been impressed so far with. I don't have like a certain flavor that I like or anything, but from what I've tried of Flavora so far, I've been really, really impressed with. So,
speaking of Flavora, let us bring to the table Concrete River, aka Rick. He has joined
Concrete.
us.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing, man?
I'm living the dream, quite frankly. So
Nice.
It's good to get a chance to talk to you.
Good to get a chance to talk to you too, man.
Great. So welcome. Rick, maybe tell us a little bit of what you've been testing through, and good ones, bad ones, ugly ones.
Well, if I could unmute my microphone first successfully. So I've been working a lot on testing a lot of the Flavora flavors, and by and large, I've run into a couple snags, but it's pretty good so far. I really love their ginger, which was kind of a nice surprise. So I got to figure out some way to use that. I had a hell of a time with their waffle, which I don't think I'm alone in. Chiba actually updated. He was going to take another look at his, and he got something that was a little bit more akin to something that actually kind of tasted like bread instead of just rhubarb on top of weird doughy notes. Yeah. So that might have more potential than I initially thought. Did something wrong there, but I've been going through the new Flavor Art citrus flavors too. And the royal orange was okay, if a little bit like flat for an orange juice. Their key lime's actually really good. And then I just put in their blood orange, and their blood orange is actually pretty good right now. So I'm still figuring that one out, but yeah.
How would you compare it to the Flavor West blood orange?
It seems a little bit less sharp and a little bit rounder, which is good. Fewer sharp edges on it, which is going to make it a little bit easier to mix with. It doesn't necessarily taste like a blood orange, but I've ate maybe three or four blood oranges in my entire life. So my basis of comparison isn't huge or anything, right. But yeah, it's good so far. I'm going to have to go ahead and actually sit down and do them back to back after I get into this one a little further.
And then what were your thoughts on the Royal? Because I started to work with it a little bit. What were you finding success for percentages and things?
Um, so I like the Royal, but it feels like it's two separate flavor components. There's like the top end, which is like a nice kind of light orange juice flavor, and then the bottom end, which is kind of like Favora's orange citrus, where it's sort of heavy, warm, and waxy. Um, and it's both of those going on at once, and they don't necessarily work at the same time. I think if you want just the lighter orange juice part of it, you're looking at maybe about 1%. And then for that body, if you want to go ahead and try to hang other flavors off that deeper body, it's probably more like 2 or 3%.
And then what would you accompany with that? Like, what would you add to make it more like a quality orange?
Um, honestly, I think it probably needs a little bit of help in the middle. So yeah, either the Flavor Art Blood Orange so far, or probably even better, the Flavor West Blood Orange. Um, if you wanted to take it into like more of a candy or even like a tangerine kind of direction, I think a little bit of Cap's Sweet Tangerine would be awesome with it.
Yeah, I like the Capella Sweet Tangerine, the Cap Sweet Mango, Sweet Guava, Sweet Lychee, and then Hibiscus. I love all those. I love to use those. I'll use the Hibiscus almost like a corn syrup, sugary note in the back rather than as a flower.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. I found that it does a really good job of sort of picking up some of the top notes of like pineapple or dragon fruit and kind of pushing those towards the front. It's a really nice, relatively subtle flavor. It doesn't really call attention to itself, but it fits in damn near anywhere, which is cool.
That's one I've been meaning to
Wayne,
give a try.
go ahead.
Oh, just that's one I've been meaning to give a try. As far as florals, I don't have too many florals, but I heard that it's a pretty subtle one that does a lot of things for other flavors. So I'm gonna have to try that one out.
Let's see. ID10T said Cap Sweet Tangerine is really good with blood orange. And then Wayne was saying some Flavor Art Mandarin would maybe make it a little more vibrant. So nice comments from the gentleman. So Emily, why don't you tell me a little more about the competition you were in and your perspective about that whole entire thing?
Oh, wow. Okay. It was a lot of fun. It was crazy stressful. Very. You've got this limiting time frame, limiting rules and ingredients and stuff. But it was a lot of fun. I think the short time of that competition really kind of made me grow the most as a mixer, like the whole time I've been mixing, just because it challenged me so much and it made me have to think like outside of the box. And I just wanted to hold my own and make it like a round or two. I didn't even think I would make it near as far as I did. So I was really excited that I made it as far as I did. It was pretty fun.
Right? Top 3? Is that right?
Yeah. Top 3, yeah.
And then Rick was second place, and then
second place with a bullet, man. It was interesting. I would like to take this opportunity though, because I know Dave's in the chat. I was going to call out both Emily and Dave for power moving me. So we're sitting there and we're like anxiously waiting for that final round of judging, and I think we're getting like some good camaraderie. And I haven't necessarily talked to Emily a ton or anything. But, I know Dave, and I feel like we're all in the trenches, and, like, we're bullshitting a little bit back and forth. And then all of a sudden, I think Emily was Dave was the first one. Dave invented this entire fake crisis that he had about not checking his flavors to see if they're going to be eligible, just to, like, heighten the suspense. And then I'm still not sure he didn't make up the thing with his kids that he had to walk away from the keyboard later. And then Emily over there has to
have kids.
Well, I mean, we've seen visual proof, but I don't know if those are actually his children. He may have borrowed them from a neighbor or something. I'm not going to put it past him.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that past him, just to get that edge.
So, and then I'm hanging out in the chat, and then all of a sudden Emily has to go eat dinner, right? And I'm like, okay, no, I mean, that's a rational thing. Good on you for having like cool enough nerves to actually go do other things. That's fine. So I'm like basically hanging out in the chat by myself at that point, just anxiously waiting, and clicked over the mixer's lobby, and Emily's over there just soaking up all the DIY or die adoration. So I got power moved. I got power moved hard, and it hurts.
Just sitting lonely in the room. There's crickets.
Yeah, no, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm super nervous, but everybody is like, oh no, I got to go take care of like actual life stuff, and I'm just sitting over there twiddling my thumbs. Nope, I just got power moved all to hell and back. It was brutal, man. It was brutal. I think I deserve some bonus points for being power moved.
It wasn't intentional. That's for sure. I can't talk about Dave, but it wasn't intentional by me. That's for sure.
Well, Dave's was definitely intentional. I've spoken to him about it, and it was all part of the grand ID10 team master plan of heightening drama. But
oh yeah, he did a great job at the whole. Oh, I didn't check if BCF had my flavors. Yeah, he did a great job there.
Like, the guy's fairly thoughtful. Like, if I was actually anything but like balls out nervous at that point, I would have like stopped and thought about it and put like 2 and 2 together. Like, oh no, he's fucking with me. But no, at the time I'm like super serious.
Right, at the time you're like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, you believe anything because you're like on edge.
And here I thought there's like this camaraderie, but I'm just getting fucking juked left and right. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I actually I made it to the candy round, and I made a whole chocolate recipe, and then found out that milk chocolate toffee had been discontinued. And I was like, so I actually had to do that, and I think Dave just pulled that idea from me, and that's where that all came from.
Oh, that stinks.
No, yeah, that was hard. It was hard. It was very stressful for me from a standpoint of like, there's the stress of being a mixer that releases the recipes, but this was like being limited to like a TPA or Capella or, just a couple ingredients. That for me added stress. And then just like the waiting game was the hardest, like the week.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
After you submit it, and you're just like, oh, I hope it was good,
There was a couple times in the competition where I'm like, okay, I've got this profile down. This is awesome. It's tasting good. And then I'm like, go to look up BCF, see if they're the flavors, and they don't, and I have to redo everything. I'm like, this is so frustrating. So but once you finally submit everything, you're like, okay, all the flavors are there. You got the profile right. You submit everything. Then you have to wait a week, or and it doesn't sound like much, but when you're in that situation and you have what you think is an awesome recipe, you need waiting just to be judged, and it's like, this is taking forever.
Now let's bring up the elephant in the room, which was the total attack on you as a mixer from some random that got a ton of press. And what was that like? I'm the only one that like skipped that barrage. He's like, oh, Ckemist is a good mixer, but fuck all these guys. And I read it and I was like, oh, woo. Because like a month or two before they were saying I was the fake mixer. So I was dealing with that. So I was like, oh, just skip this one. But how was that for you, not being someone with a website, not being a YouTuber, and getting like called out basically by somebody?
I was kind of okay with it because I'm like, I don't have a platform, and I didn't really have that many recipes before the competition. Didn't really have many recipes posted. So like, he kind of was justified a little bit in saying what he was saying, but I'm just was super happy to just, show him like, whoever it was, like, look at this, like, just because I don't have a platform, like, doesn't mean I can't mix, and just kind of shove it in his face, like, well, look what I can do, kind of thing, so.
And you totally did. I mean, you finished third place, but even you know, for the real mixers would never say that, because we see what you guys do. We know who can mix, and like, you are already known by Wayne and, you know, me, and, you know, I'm sure Koppel and all the guys hanging out in the Discord that are kind of talking back and forth and seeing your work. You're a good mixer, you know. So when I read that, I was just like, yeah, this person doesn't know the mixers enough to even comment on them, because yeah, he's shouting out like the name brands, but then the names that he's talking trash about are also good mixers. You know, that's, I was more scared of the 30 list, you know. It's like, oh shit, when I saw all the names, because it's all the Reddit guys, it's all the Facebook guys, the whole crew, you know.
Yeah, exactly. When I found out who I was, going up against, I was like, oh shit, like this is gonna be tough. And that's why I really going in was like, okay, you know what? I want to make it like one round, maybe two, just hold my own, show that I'm okay, I'm decent, but to make it as far as I did, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, you're an official store vape product now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was neat to see, have my recipe, not just for everyone to see, but like have something that have people buy, like stuff, my product, not kind of my product, sort of, and
no, that is, it's your
cool
concept.
Yeah.
What have you seen? Like, so maybe go over that final round for people that weren't aware. What were the conditions for this final DIY or Die championship mixer round that you guys went into and had to adhere to? It
was a pretty open round. We could do pretty much whatever we wanted. I think we could only limit ourselves to like 6 flavors. Obviously, they still had to have BCF, in Bull City. It can only have 6 ingredients, but like there wasn't any brand limitation or any profile or anything like that. We could do whatever we wanted, which was nice after having 3 rounds prior, having such strict restrictions on you and regulations of brands and flavors and stuff. It was kind of neat to see, okay, let's see what you can do with whatever you want, and see where your creativity takes you. And obviously you can tell that with some of the recipes in the competition and how they can do. So
now for your recipe, the Here Comes the Boys, that was your second? Oh yeah, that was right.
That was round 3.
What made you go that route? Was it a profile that you felt like you wanted to conquer? Was it something you'd already mixed, or did you just like was it a flavor that you had in your head? What brought you to this mix?
It was one of those, actually. I will bring up Scott, my mixing partner, again. It was one of those flavor profiles that we had started thinking about playing around with, and I hadn't really done much with it at that point. But I thought, you know what, this is unique. It'll maybe give me that edge to kind of give me that uniqueness, that creativity kind of edge to maybe push out some of the other people in the competition. So
yeah, it's a good mix. The cream fresh is a great move, high like that, and I don't see it too much, but like if you're making something milky, I always put in cream fresh, because it just helps. It helps whatever you're using, kind of, and personally.
Right, exactly. I think with that one, that was the round where you had to use like one flavor from each brand, and I didn't want to use up my for like vanilla bean ice cream. I'm like, okay, I can use the banana cream because that's creamy, and then cream fresh's flavor art, perfect. Let's put those together. Let's crank up that flavor art a little bit, give it more of that milky taste to kind of sell that authenticity of the milkshake.
Now you have your actual most popular recipes, the Inagata DeVito, which was your round 1 mix, and that's let's go over that one too, because that was almost harder, I think, even though it was with the 3, because it was everyone's picking 3, and you got so many people to go against that to win that first round was as difficult, I think, too. So
Yeah, it's really difficult to make a really good profile with just 3 ingredients. You know, you really have to think about how things play together and contrast and also accentuate the other, because you want to make a rich, flavorful, you know, complex recipe. You don't want it to be just like strawberry, you know, but at the same time you don't want to muddle it. You don't want to have too crazy. So I started out, I had a recipe that I had used like probably 6 or 7 ingredients in before. It was like a tropical kind of mix. I'm like, you know, this is really good. So I picked out the like 3 main notes in that recipe and went from there, and then tweaked it based on that and how it tasted with that. So it's because I kind of wanted the same vibe of this other recipe that I had made, and like I kind of like these flavors, and I know that you know, put the earthiness of the papaya and the tartness of the pomegranate and that sweet tangerine would work well together. Then it's just a matter of tweaking it and finding the right balance, because with 3 the balance is a lot more important than with like 6 or 7, you know.
Right. And that's, I found like the one I put in was right around 5 or 6% too. So we both kind of went that way, where it was like subtle instead of over doing it. So
exactly. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it has to be, you know, over flavored. You know, it can be still subtle and complex with simple 3 ingredient recipe.
right. Hey, Concrete, what about you? What was your experience getting into the final round against Emily? You talked about the sniping in the chat. What about your thought process going in after it was just you and 2 others, and now almost spotlight is only on you now? And what was your thinking?
I was absolutely shocked that I was in there to start with. So it was all pretty much gravy at that point. I just didn't want to embarrass myself. I don't know. The cool thing and the bad thing about that final round is they gave you just enough rope to hang yourself with. Basically, having everything all open like that lets you make the kind of choices you want to make as a mixer, you know, for better or worse. So I wasn't trying to hit anything particular, and my ingredient options were pretty wide open. And so it was really just a matter of trying to come up with something that I felt like represented what I wanted to say about myself as a mixer more than anything else. And so, of course, being me, I decided, hey, I'll go ahead and go a little bit left field. We all saw how that turned out. But, you know, that recipe originally started out, I wanted to go ahead and try to throw in a shake and vape tobacco recipe that didn't have a steep on it. You know, I figured that was a pretty high technical bar, and it honestly just wasn't working. I was messing around more with a lot of the flavor art stuff and Glory from Flavor Art, which, you know, isn't a fantastic tobacco by itself, but has like a really strong nutty character. And so I was mixing creams and Glory and other nuts and kind of came across something that I really liked, and then kind of decided the tobacco route wasn't working, and then ended up taking it in a completely different direction with the Zeppola, and decided to sort of focus on, and again, like to the detriment, I guess, of the overall recipe, you know, in hindsight, but I sort of started to focus on, you know, what can I do as a mixer? People have like tuned in. I've got through these rounds and I'm not sure I should have got through, but, you know, let's go ahead and let's show up, and we'll figure out what we can do and put out there. There's something interesting. And, you know, that's part of the pitfall with having like a category for risk and innovation. I just went kind of bonkers with it. Found some stuff that I liked, and then went ahead and worked on layering and trying to get something that was interesting but still tasty at the same time. And, you know, I'll stand by it, and I don't know if it sounds particularly immodest, but I think that's some of the better layering I've ever tasted in a recipe, and to have that as a shake and bake bakery was really cool. But coming back to like the judging criteria, you also fall into the trap of really rigidly following those judging criteria and sort of playing to the judging criteria as opposed to something that you're really, really happy with at the end of the day. So I'm proud of my output, but with that kind of hindsight, I don't know if I would do it the same way again. I think I do something that I was a little bit more enthusiastic about as a profile as opposed to like a technical exercise.
Yeah, I did a whole round. On round 2, I was trying to be fancy, and I was going to use all TPA and then use the chemical notes that are in each flavor to combine them. And it looked good on paper, but it was supposed to be like a nice caramel cream. But when I mixed it, it was almost tobacco. Tobacco came through somehow. So it's a great tobacco, but it wasn't candy. But I got into that too, where I was trying to be almost you overthink it, you overcook your dish a bit, where you're like, let me show them this, or let me do this. And it's not the same as when you're just like sitting alone and you're like, oh, I'll make it this way because that's what I like to make it like, when you think about other people's palates, it almost starts to affect how you think about it. And you got to get over that and just mix for you. That's what I tell people that are like kind of questioning back and forth is mix for yourself. And then if you love it, there'll be like 1 in 5 people that love it. And that's the best you can hope for. Because if you try to mix for the other 4 people, you're just going to make trash that you don't even like. So that doesn't make as much sense.
Exactly. In the end, it's all about mixing for yourself. Every taste is subjective, but if you mix for yourself and do what you're proud of, other people will like it too. It's just natural.
Emily, what what are some secret flavors that you like that like people don't talk about, but they're like just things that you love to use?
Gosh, I think one that I really love a lot and that doesn't get much attention is Flavor Milk and Honey. Every time you just need some dark sweetness, that's the first thing I'll grab for. It just because it's not really milk and it's not honey. It's just kind of this dark sweetness, and it's just I think it really can play a good role in a lot of things, and so that's one of them that's under kind of an underrated flavor that I really like, kind of a secret.
And what percentage do you like to use that at?
I use it like 0.25 in like fruit type mixes, or like 0.5, 0.75 in creams. I use it pretty low, but it's strong. Like you don't need a lot to get the desired effect.
So you're not using it for honey and you're not using it for milk, but you're using it for almost a brown sugary sweetness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's. I'm sure. In fact, I've never really used it at like 2 or 3%. The highest I've ever gone is like 1. I'm sure it's probably a good as a main flavor, even accent flavor. But I've always just used it as an additive for like a sweetener. Unless it's like a really light citrusy, tropically fruit type stuff. If it's anything else, like it needs could use some darker sweet kind of brown sugar type thing, I'll use that.
Nice, very cool. That's a good tip for everybody. Concrete, let me ask you about this new mix that you have on all the flavors. Let me preface a minute, and the first 25 is 25 flavors. If you search e-juice makers, first 25, I believe it's first-25 if you want to type it in the URL. And it's just 25 basic startup flavors so that you don't order 100 and ask what can you mix with it on Facebook, but instead you have these flavors and then we've provided recipes for you to mix with it. It's a project that's in progress. And then as I was looking up Concrete River's stuff, I saw he just released a blueberry RY4 cinnamon roll, which uses those flavors. So maybe you can talk on that a bit and tell us your thinking and about it a bit?
Yeah, it was actually a really fun design challenge. So I know there's other people out there that suffer from the same thing, but I generally have a lot of options when I mix, and it's a good thing. But you also kind of get lost in, oh, what can I do with this flavor? Or, you get bogged down in trying to pick what direction you want to go to. So when you guys asked me to work with you on e-juice makers and you had that first 25 flavors, I thought it was like a really interesting, fun challenge to sort of say, okay, here's my limited palette. Now what can I do with it? And is that mix going to be appealing to somebody who's just picking up 25 flavors off the shelf? So it kind of broke me out of my habit of using a bunch of obscure and, admittedly fairly expensive stuff at like 0.25%. It was more just looking at those main flavors and seeing what I could do with them. And then it sort of pushed me away from using really light touches and mixes and having something with like a nice full flavor, which was something I'd been struggling with for a while. So I decided to go ahead and run with RY4 and started thinking about what I could do with that basket. And the cinnamon roll definitely jumped out to me. And, I started off there with cinnamon roll and RY4, and it was good, but it was dry and it was a little monotone. So it was just a matter of, at that point, like, well, I know the blueberry is going to work well with the cinnamon roll, and it gives it like a little bit of differentiation between that middle base bready note, and then it gives you something a little bit high, to kind of chase around in the vape. And then just added in the Vienna cream, honestly, to smooth everything down. And I sort of ended up with a mix that I really love, just because it's so far outside from what I usually end up mixing. And I've actually gone through a ton of it. It's nice. It's a punchy, bold mix, but it also has a little bit of interest from that blueberry in there. It's been fun overall.
And guys, so the ones listening on the podcast, it is 3.5% Flavor West Blueberry, 3% Flavor West Cinnamon Roll, 4% Flavor Apprentice RY4 Double, and 1.5% Flavor Art Vienna Cream. That's a total 12%. Steep 7 days, best at 70%. Yeah, that's a great recipe, man. Really cool. Really good stuff.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was just saying that I was just gonna say that sounds really good. I'm not a big tobacco fan, but with the RY4, because it's so subtle and it's got so many different things, it's I think blueberry and cinnamon roll both would play very well with that. It sounds great.
Yeah, so you're using some of these cool. The RY4 for me comes off as leather. Like I get like a leather note, which works in bakeries all the way across to tobacco. So if you're not using RY4 or you think RY4 only tobacco, there's a lot of options. You can use it with grape. You can do RY4 and grape, works well. RY4 and watermelon does not work well, as I've learned. But you have the blueberry, and I got that from Pretty Matt at Charlie Noble, and he said use the RY4 and fruits. So then I started mixing with it, and I made a grape oak that has RY4 in it, and then Flavor Art oak, and a couple blends of grapes, and it really works well. And it's almost like it adds to the oak to give it more of a woodsy feel so I definitely like that. And then the Vienna cream from Head in the Clouds, I found some like 7-year-old recipe that he made talking about eggnog, and that Vienna cream is his like go-to eggnog mix. And so ever since, like, I made a pretty good eggnog over Christmas, and then with Vienna cream up around a 3%, which is something you like never would think to do, but it thickens it up almost like a milkshake, real thick taste out of it. So if you're looking to make like a real thick cream, like maybe make a milkshake fuller, consider like a Vienna cream at like a 2.5 or something like that. Let's see. All right. So we are moving right along, and we're having a great show. Let me just remind you guys of a couple things. The MixLife app, still living in iTunes Store and Android. Content being added weekly. Every MixLife episode you can find in there in both video and audio form. And that's only $1. You can get that from the stores. Shout out to Flavor Art for these orange flavors that some of us got. Shout out to Flavora for sending the crew the line. And then who else deserves a shout out? Shout out to Wayne, DIY or Die podcast. Get on the membership if you're not, because he is writing an insane amount of stuff behind the scenes, and it's worth $3. You know, so if you're, he's got podcasts and other stuff back there. And then when he does these monthly magazines, they're really useful. So if you're mixing and you're like, what's this $3 about? It's definitely worth the $3. I've been a member for about a year, and it's proven to be valuable to me as a mixer, even, you know, on top of everything else. So that's something you should definitely get on. Shout out to Jennifer Jarvis and Flavor Pro. Shout out to Steam Room in the comments. So just a big team we have, and we're doing really well lately, putting some stuff together. I just put a recipe out a couple days ago on all the flavors in ELR, and it's a tobacco that I've been working on. Let me give you the name. Oh yeah, it's called Lucky Shot Deluxe, and I took a Hangson tobacco, added it with Lucky Shot and sugar cookie, whipped cream, Zeppela, and some creme fraiche or fresh cream from Flavor Art. So it just kind of builds on what Lucky Shot the flavoring is, and I really liked it. Like I've vaped through the whole thing already. And I wanted like a high nicotine because I've been doing a lot of fruit testing down like at 2% because I vape a lot of it. So I switched over to this mix, and then I did it at an 8 milligram, and it just was full flavor. It tasted really good. And, you know, when you go higher with the nicotine, it kind of messes that up sometimes.
It can, yeah. I actually just discovered Lucky Shot a little while ago. It's, you know, being in Canada, I don't, if I have to order flavors from the States, I want to make sure it's a whole bunch. So like little companies like One Stop DIY and DIY Flavor Shack, I don't tend to get quite often. So I had just recently gotten Lucky Shot, and I'm super like thrilled with it. It's a really good flavor. Yeah. What
maybe tell everybody what it's like being a DIY or in Canada. You said you're in Vancouver, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm in the Vancouver area. It's all right. It's just not as, you guys have a lot more vendors to choose from. Obviously, you know, I'm really lucky because I live like maybe 20 minutes away from DIY e-juice, so like one of the main vendors in Canada. So if I need something, and they have a pretty good selection, and a lot of times they'll order it in like for me, and and just to have it. So they're pretty good about that, but there's still flavors that, you know, that are just obscure or that you can't get, that I have to wait for a big order and ship from somewhere else. But it's not too bad.
And then what about the actual vape scene? So what's the store-bought juice like in Canada? Did you vape when you lived down here, or did you start?
Yeah, I did. No, actually I didn't start vaping, I guess, until 2013, 2014. I never was in like the vape scene though. Like I don't really know many people other than you guys and, you know, mixing people that vape like in real life. And when I went to if I'd go to a vape shop to get juice, it was normally just like shitty house juice because I didn't know any better at the time. You know, like I said, I had that one flavor by the Gertz that some dude had talked me into trying, and I really liked, and so of course that's why I tried to clone. But so like everything I've had, or what, you know, exposure, I guess, to that type of community, and I wasn't really involved in like the forums or like the vaping community before mixing, so I'm not really too good at that kind of thing. So
Yeah, but that's, you know, I think that's one of the great things about the internet is that, you know, the fact that the sub community is not big enough that you can have maybe 100 DIY mixers in your town. Now, because of, you know, Facebook groups and forums and Reddit and YouTube, we're able to build a community around this, you know, and I think that's really cool that this exists, you know, that in our time we get to have, you know, a technological community, you know, where, you know, I have a digital team.
yeah, I do too. It's really neat to see everyone come together and over like the same kind of hobby or the same interest, and also it's neat to see how, as far as like the personalities, the you guys and the DIY and Steam Room, how everyone has their own thing, but yet you guys come together and you work together and you're all friends and just hang out over the same interest. It's a really cool thing to have this day and age, to just be able to talk to someone about something you love.
Definitely. What do you find? Let's talk to some new mixers now. And what kind of advice would you give the new mixer or somebody that maybe just vapes and doesn't DIY at all? Is it something that they should do, and why?
Absolutely. In fact, if nothing more than to just save some money. You know, there's this hobby I have found goes so much deeper than I have ever first thought. You know, there's different ends of the spectrum where you can just get in it, you can make some recipes that are already there, save some money, save $1 or $2, have something good to vape, or you can just dive deep and it can become almost an art form and like a whole thing, you know, to a whole different aspect of learning the flavors and learning, you know, different combinations and stuff. And you can go as deep as you want. You know, you can, as much time as you want to put into it, or as much, you know, effort you want to put into it, you can get out of this awesome hobby. So it's pretty cool.
Definitely. That's great. So everybody, you know, it's what you want it to be. Concrete River, why don't you send us off with some parting words from you? What is your white whale? What are you trying to make that you've never been able to get a hold of?
You know, honestly, I stopped, and this is going to sound super diffuse, but I stopped chasing really specific profiles. You know, something that's unattainable a while ago. I'm just kind of enjoying the hobbyist aspect of it. You know, I'm into DIY e-juice, not as a means to an end, you know, but I actually just enjoy the process more than anything else. I mean, there's still stuff that I'd absolutely love to have a good version of, like Fernet Branca, the Italian Amaro. I still keep on saying that I'd like to come up with a version of that, but I honestly haven't given it that much of a try.
What is that? What is that flavor?
Oh, it's kind of like a vaguely sweet menthol cigarette butt liqueur. It's very Italian. I think there was some promise there with Decadent Vapors, Dandelion, and Burdock, but I guess they just discontinued that one, which is still, you know, hitting me right here.
Yeah, those are good. The DV.
Yeah,
I got some of those. I used the whole white chocolate on, like, in 2 mixes in a row. Just vaped it all up. So yeah, if you happen to be ordering from chefs in the UK, shout out to chefs. You can get our one-shot line there. You can get Darren's one-shot line, and he just released a new clone for more of those dinner lady flavors that everyone's crazy about. So you can get those. And then they have Decadent Vapor, which is a brand. And that came recommended to me by Lewis when I'd won a competition where I had like $30 in flavors. And I was like, hey, a little help here. I have no clue what half these brands are. And he said, you know, Decadent Vapors is a really good one, but people don't really buy it because it's a little higher price. So I started, you know, dabbling with those, and I was really impressed. Really cool. Like you said, the Dandelion Burdock is crazy. And they have a couple, I think they have Sarsaparilla that's dead on. And then I made a Sarsaparilla tobacco that smelled like root beer box soda syrup. It was a major fail, but it smelled like the simple syrup that powers the CO2 line for a soda machine, like real syrupy. So it's just like root beer. So if you're looking for root beer, it's there, but I wouldn't suggest doing a tobacco root beer in your quest. All right, so I'm gonna let Concrete River head out. Thanks again, man.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. Hey, it was good to talk to you, Emily.
Good talking to you too, Concrete. You have a good day.
Later.
Yeah, we had the battle of the two teams today.
Yeah.
The two of the three best mixers based on competition and results.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, we got very competitive, but when it was all said and done, all the guys are super friendly and everyone's real nice to each other. So.
And
it's all fun and games until somebody power moves you, though. I'm still never going to get over that.
What do you find? Do you have a white whale, like a recipe that you just really want to mix but haven't been able to get it yet?
Not really. I tend to kind of, well, okay, I do actually. So have you heard of Mexican wedding cakes?
What, like a tres leches?
No, they're like these little sugar cookies with butter pecans, like shortbread type sugar cookies with powdered sugar on them. They're called Mexican wedding cakes, and I love them. And my grandmother used to make them like around the holidays. You know, it's like one of those treats that you just have one time a year. They're amazing. And I've been on and off kind of since I started mixing, trying to make these things. And it's just, and normally if I think about a profile, and I'll just stick to it and work on it until I get it. But this one, I have to back away because I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm getting further from where I want to be. So I just back away for a while. And eventually one of these days I will get it. But it's just something that I just need to give myself a break. And I get burnt out and mixing isn't fun anymore, you know?
Yeah, so. I hear you when you get like, I've done like month-long cookie development and chocolate milk development where I'm just so sick of cookies or chocolate milk after, you know, a month long vaping shitty versions of this stuff. Yeah. So, but I definitely hear that. Hey, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We made it an hour. We did great. Everyone had a good time. You know, I think there was a lot of content we covered that people really enjoyed. So
it was a good show.
Appreciate you coming on. I hope you come on again sometime. You're always welcome. So.
Anytime.
Cool. Thank you. I hope you have a great day. I'm going to wrap it up. All right, guys, that's it. That's the MixLife show. I am Adam, and aka the Ckemist, e-juice makers, Flavor Pro, Steam Room Vaping, DIY or Die, MixLife app. You know where to find us. Thanks so much for tuning in. And to all you watching after the fact, we'll see you next Sunday at 6 p.m. if you want to watch live, ask questions. Have an awesome Sunday.